Samantha sat up alarmed until the figure lowered its hood, revealing the princess. "We don't have much time," whispered. "Naravex, I have disabled the surveillance in this section temporarily." "What are you doing here?" Samantha asked. The princess held out a small device. "This contains the access codes to your ship and the patrol schedules for the next cycle. I cannot free you tonight, security is too high, but 3 cycles from now, during the metamorphosis ceremony, all attention will be focused on the royal chamber. That is when you must escape." Samantha took the device. "How am I supposed to get out of my cell?" The princess handed her another small object. "This will deactivate the force field for 30 seconds. Use it wisely. Once free, follow the path I have programmed into the device. It will lead you to the hangar where your ship is being held." "Thank you," Samantha said. "But why risk so much for me?" Naravex's antennae twitched. "For many cycles, I have studied other species in secret, I believe. The Vexari policy of isolation and aggression is wrong. You showed me kindness when you could have treated me as a specimen to be studied, or a threat to be eliminated. That experience changed my understanding of humans. Of all non-Vexari, I have been working quietly to change our approach to other species, so I'm not just a life debt." A political statement," Samantha said with a slight smile. The princess made a sound that might have been laughter. "You are the evidence I need to show my mother that humans are not the mindless, aggressive creatures our history claims. But I must go. The surveillance will reactivate soon. Remember 3 cycles during the metamorphosis ceremony." The princess slipped out, and the force field hummed back to life. Samantha clutched the devices, hiding them in her clothing. A plan was forming, but she knew the risks were enormous. If caught, they would both face severe consequences. But what choice did she have for the next 2 days? Princess Naravex continued her scientific interrogation. Each session revealed more common ground between them. The princess was genuinely curious about Earth and human culture. Samantha in turn learned about Vexari biology and social structures. A strange friendship began to form across the species divide. On the 3rd day, Samantha knew it was time. The station had been buzzing with activity as preparations for the metamorphosis ceremony reached their peak. From what she gathered, it was an important ritual where young Vexari completed their final molt into adulthood. When the guards came to take her for questioning, Samantha noticed they seemed distracted, less attentive. She was brought not to the laboratory but to a small observation room. The princess was waiting, dressed in ceremonial attire, her exoskeleton polished to a brilliant shine. "You will witness part of our most sacred ceremony," Human said Naravex formally for the benefit of the guards. "It is a rare honor. Leave us." She commanded the guards, who hesitated, then obeyed. Once alone, the princess moved quickly. "Tonight you escape. Are you prepared?" "As ready as I can be," Samantha replied. The princess handed her a small vial. "Drink this. It will mask your biosignature from our sensors for approximately 2 hours. Enough time to reach your ship and clear our defense perimeter." Samantha drank the liquid, which tasted bitter but not unpleasant. "What about you? Won't they know you helped me? I have created evidence implicating one of Commander Kraz's rivals. It will not hold forever, but it should buy enough time," Naravex explained. "Now go. The ceremony begins in 30 minutes. All attention will be focused." There. Samantha hesitated, then impulsively reached out and touched the princess's arm. "Thank you. I won't forget. This." The princess seemed startled by the contact but did not pull away. "Perhaps one day our peoples will meet, as equals, not as enemies. Remember what you have learned here. Tell your leaders that not all Vexari wish for isolation and war." "I will," Samantha promised. Then, following the princess' instructions, she slipped out of the room and began her dangerous journey toward freedom and home. Here's part 2. The corridors of the Ike. Vexari Station were eerily quiet as Samantha made her way through the labyrinthine structure. She followed the map on the small device Princess Naravex had given her, ducking into alcoves whenever she heard approaching footsteps. The ceremonial event had drawn most of the Vexari to the central chambers, but patrols still moved through the outer sections, Her heart pounded against her ribs as she navigated the unfamiliar territory. The station's architecture reflected the Vexari themselves, angular, efficient, and alien to human sensibilities. Hexagonal doorways led to spiral corridors that seemed designed to confuse intruders. The air carried a faint scent like cinnamon mixed with ozone, a smell she had come to associate with Vexari, technology, at a junction. Samantha paused as the device in her hand vibrated silently, warning her of an approaching patrol. She pressed herself into a shadowed recess, holding her breath as two guards passed by. Their mandibles clicked in conversation, too quiet for her translator to catch. Once they turned the corner, she continued moving, following the blinking path on her screen. After 20 minutes of careful navigation, she reached a maintenance shaft according to the map the princess had marked. This is the safest route to avoid the more heavily guarded main corridors. Samantha pried open the access panel and squeezed into the narrow passage. The shaft was meant for the smaller worker caste of Vexari, not for humans. She crawled on hands and knees through the dusty tunnel, her muscles protesting the awkward movement. The shaft branched in several directions, but the device guided her correctly. She emerged eventually into a dimly lit storage area, crates of supplies and equipment lined the walls. She took a moment to catch her breath, checking the time on the device. The ceremony would be reaching its peak now, giving her the best chance to reach the hangar. As she moved toward the door, it suddenly slid open. Samantha froze as a Vexari worker entered. The alien froze as well, its compound eyes widening at the sight of the human. The worker was smaller than the guards, its exoskeleton a dull brown rather than the iridescent colors of the soldiers or royals. For a moment they stared at each other. Then the worker made a series of quick clicks that her translator couldn't follow. The Vexari reached for something at its belt. Likely a communication device, Samantha acted on instinct. She lunged forward, grabbing the alien's arm. The Vexari was stronger than it looked, easily breaking her grip. It clicked rapidly, a sound her translator finally caught. Intruder Sector 7. Desperate. Samantha grabbed a nearby tool, a heavy wrench-like object, and swung it. The worker dodged, but Samantha swung again, catching it on the side of its head. The Vexari crumpled to the floor. Not dead, she hoped, but unconscious. Guilt washed over her. She had never harmed another sentient being before, but there was no time for remorse. She dragged the worker behind some crates and continued her escape. The hangar was close now, just 2 more sections away according to the map. The next corridor was wider, more brightly lit. Samantha moved quickly, knowing her window of opportunity was shrinking. She passed several closed doors, hearing the distant sounds of the ceremony echoing through the station, a rhythmic humming that vibrated through the floor and walls. She reached the final security checkpoint before the hangar, a sealed door with a biometric scanner. The princess had prepared for this. Samantha removed a small adhesive patch from the device and placed it on the scanner. As promised, it bypassed the security, the door sliding open with a soft hiss. The hangar was vast, larger than she had imagined. Dozens of Vexari vessels, from small scout ships to medium transports, sat in orderly rows. Maintenance drones moved among them, performing routine tasks. Her own ship looked tiny and primitive by comparison, sitting in a far corner, likely impounded. For study, Samantha moved cautiously, keeping to the shadows. 2 technicians worked near the entrance, but they were focused on a damaged shuttle, their backs to her. She made her way around the perimeter, staying behind larger vessels to avoid detection. The biosignature masking drug the princess had given her seemed to be working. The automated security system showed no reaction to her presence. When she reached her ship, the stellar horizon, she breathed a sigh of relief. The external damage was minimal, just scorch marks from the tractor beam that had captured it. She pressed her hand against the hull, feeling an emotional connection to this small vessel that had been her home for months. Using the access codes from the device, she unlocked the entry hatch. The familiar interior welcomed her like an old friend. Everything seemed untouched, her equipment still in place, though she noticed some items had been moved, likely examined by Vexari scientists. She quickly moved to the cockpit, initiating the power-up sequence. The ship systems came online quietly. The princess had modified them to run in stealth mode. Warning indicators showed that several tracking devices had been planted on the hull. She would need to deal with those once she escaped. The main problem would be leaving the hangar without setting off alarms. According to the princess's notes, there was a maintenance cycle scheduled for the hangar force field. The field would drop briefly to allow calibration of the emitters. This would be her only chance to slip out without requiring hangar control authorization. She waited, watching the timer on the device. The seconds ticked down, agonizingly slow. Every moment increased the risk of discovery. She ran through the pre-flight checklist, keeping the engines in standby mode to minimize energy signatures. The Vexari were feared throughout the galaxy. Their insectoid appearance with iridescent exoskeletons and compound eyes frightened most humanoid species. But it was their ruthless efficiency and technological superiority that truly made them dangerous. They controlled vast regions of space and were known to capture, rather than kill, interesting specimens. Samantha sat up on the hard metal bench that served as her bed. She wore the same clothes from when she was captured, though her captors had taken her equipment and research tools. She was a xenobiologist from Earth, one of the most respected in her field. Her mission had been to study the unique radiation patterns from a nearby pulsar, but she had miscalculated the borders of Vexari territory. Buzzing sound indicated the force field of her cell was being deactivated. Two tall Vexari guards entered, their mandibles clicking in their native language. Though she couldn't understand them, the universal translator implanted behind her ear caught fragments. Prisoner for inspection. The metallic voice translated. The guards grabbed her arms, their exoskeletal hands cold against her skin. They placed glowing blue restraints on her wrists, shackles that hummed with strange energy. She knew better than to resist. The Vexari were physically stronger than humans, and these guards carried energy staves that could deliver painful shocks. They marched her through long corridors of the massive ship or space station. She wasn't sure which. The architecture was angular with hexagonal patterns reminiscent of insect hives. The few Vexari they passed turned their compound eyes toward her, some clicking their mandibles in what she assumed was curiosity. Humans were rare in this sector. After several minutes, they arrived at a large set of doors inscribed with symbols she couldn't decipher. The doors slid open, revealing a vast chamber clearly designed to impress visitors. The ceiling soared high above, decorated with crystalline formations that refracted light in beautiful patterns. The floor was polished stone with intricate patterns carved into it. At the far end of the chamber sat an imposing figure on a raised platform. The Vexari Queen Zixtra was larger than the others. Her exoskeleton, a deep blue with gold patterns along the edges. Her compound eyes seemed to glow with inner light as she observed Samantha, the human prisoner. "Your Majesty," announced one of the guards, pushing Samantha forward. Samantha stumbled but caught herself refusing to show weakness. She stood as tall as she could, shoulders back, facing the alien queen with what she hoped was dignified composure. Queen Zixtra studied her for long moments before speaking. Her voice translated into a resonant feminine tone. "So, this is the human who violated our territory. I apologize for the intrusion, Your Majesty," Samantha said, keeping her voice steady. "I am a scientist studying stellar phenomena. I had no intention of trespassing." The Queen made a sound that might have been laughter. "My intelligence officers report your vessel contained sophisticated scanning equipment capable of analyzing our defenses." Samantha shook her head. "Those scanners are designed for cosmic radiation studies, not military applications." A xenobiologist, not a spy, a slender figure stepped forward from beside the Queen's throne. This one was clearly female, with a lavender hue to her exoskeleton. Her movements were more graceful than the others. Her head tilted as she studied Samantha Mother. "Perhaps we should verify her claims," suggested the lavender Vexari. Her voice was lighter, musical almost. "We could examine her research data." The Queen turned to regard the speaker. Princess Naravex, always so curious about outsiders. "Very well, you may inspect the humans' data. But I warn you, these creatures are known for their deception." Samantha looked at the princess with new interest. A royal interested in science. Perhaps there was hope for understanding after all. Princess Naravex approached. Samantha circling her with evident curiosity. You claim to be a scientist. Tell me, what were you studying specifically? The unusual radiation patterns from pulsar. GSX 42. Samantha explained. The pulsar emits frequencies that don't match our current models. I was collecting data to determine why. The princess stopped directly in front of Samantha, her compound eyes reflecting the human's image back at her. A scientist like myself. Interesting. She turned to the Queen Mother. I request permission to interrogate this human personally. I believe her scientific knowledge could be valuable. Queen Zixtra seemed displeased but nodded. Very well. You have 3 cycles to extract useful information. If you fail, the human goes to Commander Kraz for military interrogation. The princess bowed her head. Thank you, Mother, I will not disappoint you. She gestured to the guards. Take her to my laboratory. The guards led Samantha through more corridors until they reached what appeared to be a sophisticated research facility. Unlike the harsh military aesthetic of the rest of the station, this room was filled with equipment. She recognized scientific instruments and analysis tools. Several Vexari and different colored markings worked at various stations. Princess dismissed the guards with a wave. Leave us, I will call if the prisoner causes trouble. When they were alone, the princess turned to Samantha, her mandibles moving in what seemed like a more relaxed pattern. So you study stellar phenomena, Dr. Samantha Miller. Samantha couldn't hide her surprise. You know my name. The princess moved to a console bringing up holographic displays of Samantha's ship and its contents. We analyzed your vessel's database. Of course I know your name and your credentials. Quite impressive for a human. She manipulated the controls and Samantha's research data appeared in the air between them. For the next several hours, the princess questioned Samantha about her research methods, findings, and theories. To Samantha's surprise, the Vexari Royal was genuinely knowledgeable about astrophysics and asked insightful questions. Their scientific discussion flowed naturally despite their different species as they talked. Samantha began to notice something familiar about the princess, the way she moved her head when considering a complex idea, the particular pattern of clicks she made when excited about a discovery. Something nagged at Samantha's memory, but she couldn't place it. The princess seemed to notice her scrutiny. Is something troubling you, human? I feel like we've met before, Samantha said, though I know that's impossible. The princess froze, her antennae twitching rapidly. Perhaps not as impossible as you think, she said quietly. She looked around the laboratory, then pressed a sequence on her wrist device. The cameras in this room are now on a loop. We can speak freely for a few minutes. Samantha frowned. What do you mean? 5 years ago. Earth calendar. Northeastern region of your continent. North America. A damaged scout ship crash landing in a forest. The princess spoke slowly. Watching Samantha's reaction, recognition dawned on Samantha, the memory rushing back with perfect clarity. 5 years ago, while doing field research in the forests of Minnesota, she had discovered a crashed alien vessel. Hidden inside was an injured alien being unlike any species on record. Samantha had kept the discovery secret, nursing the alien back to health in her remote cabin. After 3 weeks, the alien had repaired its communication device and been retrieved by a stealth ship that appeared and disappeared in the night. That was you, Samantha whispered. You were the alien? I helped. The princess nodded, her compound eyes seeming to soften. I never expected to encounter you again. Certainly, not here. But I recognized your biorhythmic signature when they brought you aboard. There are not many humans with your particular pattern. Samantha struggled to process this revelation. I had no idea you were royalty. I could not reveal my true identity. It would have been dangerous for both of us, Princess Naravex explained. The knowledge that a Vexari royal had been at the mercy of a human would have caused political upheaval. Had my mother known, she would have ordered Earth quarantined, or worse. Why? Are you telling me this now? Samantha asked. The princess moved closer, lowering her voice. Because I owe you a life debt. By our most sacred laws, I am bound to repay you, and now I have the chance. You saved me. Then I will save you now. Hope flickered in Samantha's heart. What are you saying? I am saying that I cannot allow you to be handed over to Commander Kraz. He is known for his cruelty. His interrogations leave nothing of the mind intact. I will help you escape, but won't that put you in danger. Princess stepped back as a signal on her wrist device flashed. Guards approaching. I must continue the charade. When they enter, I will act displeased with you. Follow my lead. The laboratory doors opened, and 2 guards entered. Princess Narravex had already moved to a position of authority, her posture rigid. This human is stubborn, but the information she provides is accurate. Continue to hold her in the detention area. I will resume questioning tomorrow. The guards clicked acknowledgement and took Samantha back to her cell. As they marched through the corridors, her mind raced with possibilities. Was the princess truly planning to help her escape, or was this an elaborate ruse to gain her trust? Either way, she had little choice but to play along back in her cell. Samantha paced, thinking through everything she knew about the Vexari. Their society was hierarchical, with the royal family at the top. The military held significant power with Commander Kraz, apparently a feared figure. Princess Narravex seemed to be a scientist, which was unexpected. She had never heard of Vexari being interested in pure research. Hours later, the lights in her cell dimmed, simulating night. She lay on the hard bench trying to sleep when a soft buzzing alerted her. The force field flickered and deactivated. A slender figure slipped inside, covered in a hooded cloak. A sudden commotion at the hangar entrance made her duck below the viewport. Several guards rushed in, led by a tall Vexari in ornate armor. Commander Kraz, she guessed. They were speaking urgently to the technicians who pointed toward the storage areas. She had been discovered sooner than expected, possibly when the worker had regained consciousness. The timer showed 2 minutes until the force field maintenance. She needed to delay them somehow. Looking around the cockpit, she spotted the distress beacon. It was designed to broadcast an emergency signal, but if reconfigured, it could create interference with Vexari communications. Working quickly, she modified the beacon, setting it to emit a burst of electromagnetic noise on Vexari communication frequencies. She activated it and was rewarded by seeing the guards stop their advance, touching their communication devices in confusion. 1 minute remaining. Samantha powered up the engines, keeping them at minimal thrust. The ship's computer warned of the force field still in place at the hangar exit. She gripped the controls, waiting for the moment. The hangar alarm suddenly blared. Guards and technicians looked up as emergency lights began flashing. The commander barked orders, pointing toward her ship. They had located her. The force field timer showed 30 seconds, still too long. Making a split-second decision, Samantha diverted power to the ship's defensive shields. The Stellar Horizon wasn't a military vessel, but its shields were designed to withstand micrometeorites and solar radiation. They might survive a brief contact with the force field. She engaged thrusters, pushing the ship forward toward the exit. The guards raised weapons, firing energy bolts that splashed harmlessly against her shields. The commander was shouting orders, his mandibles spread wide in what she recognized as rage. 20 seconds. The ship accelerated toward the shimmering blue barrier of the force field. Samantha braced herself for impact. If the shields failed, her escape would end in a spectacular but brief explosion. 10 seconds. The commander himself leapt onto a small interceptor craft, powering it up to pursue. 5 seconds. Samantha pushed the engines to maximum. The ship screamed in protest as it hurtled toward the barrier. The force field flickered just as she reached it, the maintenance cycle beginning exactly as the princess had promised. The stellar horizon shot through the momentary gap into open space. Samantha let out a whoop of triumph as stars filled her viewport. Her celebration was short-lived. Alarms blared as the station's defensive systems activated. Weapon emplacements swiveled toward her ship. Behind her, several interceptors launched in pursuit, led by the commanders. Craft. Samantha pushed her ship into a spiraling evasive pattern. The stellar horizon was smaller and more maneuverable than the Vexari vessels, but they had superior weapons and shields. She needed to reach the jump point coordinates. The princess had provided a location where she could engage her FTL drive and escape. Energy beams lanced past her ship, defensive fire trying to disable rather than destroy her. One beam grazed the hull alarms, indicating minor damage to the port stabilizer. The Mainivitani ship wobbled but continued its flight. The tracking devices on her hull were now working against her, allowing the Vexari weapons to lock on with unnerving accuracy. She activated the secondary systems the princess had added to her ship. A small device began broadcasting false readings, multiplying her signature to confuse pursuit. On her sensors, it appeared as if several identical ships suddenly split from her position, heading in different directions. The Vexari fire dispersed, targeting the Phantom. Signals Commander Kraz's ship, however, stayed locked on her. Apparently, he wasn't fooled by the deception. His vessel was gaining rapidly, its superior engines closing the distance. She needed something more. The jump coordinates were still 2 minutes away at her current speed. Too long. The commander's weapons would be in optimal range within 30 seconds. She scanned the area looking for options. The Vexari system had a dense asteroid field nearby. According to her navigational data, it was unstable and dangerous, exactly what she needed. Samantha veered sharply toward the field of tumbling rocks. The Vexari interceptors followed more cautiously. As she reached the edge of the field, she cut her main engine, switching to maneuvering thrusters. Only the stellar horizon slipped between two massive asteroids spinning slowly in their ancient dance. The commander's ship followed. Its sleeker design allowed it to navigate the field almost as well as her smaller vessel. The other pursuers held back at the perimeter, unwilling to risk the dangerous conditions. Massive rocks tumbled around them, some the size of small moons, others no bigger than her ship, all moving in chaotic, unpredictable patterns. Samantha flew by instinct, letting her connection to her ship guide her through the maze of stone. The Vexari commander stayed close, firing occasional shots when he had a clear line. The energy beam struck asteroids, sending fragments spinning in all directions, creating even more chaos. An alert showed that the jump coordinates were now within range, but she couldn't safely engage the FTL drive inside the asteroid field. The gravitational distortions would tear her ship apart. She needed to reach clear space. A plan formed in her mind. Dangerous, but possibly effective. She dove deeper into the field where the largest asteroids collided with bone-crushing force. Finding a relatively clear pocket, she cut all power to her ship. The stellar horizon drifted dark and silent among the rocks. Commander's ship passed overhead, searching. Samantha held her breath, watching his vessel through the viewport. Its searchlights swept the area, probing the darkness. For several tense minutes, the Vexari ship circled, growing increasingly erratic in its movements. Finally, it turned away, heading toward a different sector of the field. She had fooled him temporarily, but it wouldn't last. Carefully, she restored minimal power, using the asteroids for cover, as she made her way toward the edge of the field opposite from where she had entered. The journey was nerve-wracking. Every moment risked discovery or collision. Twice she had to power down completely as Vexari scouts passed nearby. The jump coordinates had to be recalculated as her position shifted. The new location would put her dangerously close to the system's sun, but it was her best option. After nearly an hour of careful navigation, she reached the outer edge of the field. Clear space beckoned. Beyond lay freedom. She powered up the engines, preparing to make a dash for the jump point. Suddenly, the commander's ship appeared directly in her path, rising from behind a large asteroid where it had been waiting. His ambush perfectly executed. Samantha pulled back on the controls, but it was too late. Energy beams struck her ship, disabling her main engines. The stellar horizon drifted powerless, its momentum carrying it forward. Samantha frantically worked the controls, rerouting power, trying to restore propulsion. The commander's voice came over the communication system. Impressive, human but futile. Surrender now or be destroyed. She ignored him, focusing on repairs. The auxiliary power system was still functional. If she could channel it to the maneuvering thruster, she might have one more chance. A proximity alarm warned that the commander's ship was moving alongside, preparing to dock and board. The power transfer completed, giving her minimal control. Not enough for escape, but perhaps enough for one last desperate move. She looked at the asteroid field behind her, then at the commander's ship approaching confidently. With a silent apology to her ship, she fired the thrusters at maximum burn in a lateral direction. The sudden movement caught the Vexari by surprise. The stellar horizon spun away from the commander's ship, but more importantly, the backwash from her thrusters pushed a cluster of small asteroids toward him. The commander reacted quickly, but not quickly enough. Several rocks struck his ship, damaging its stabilizers. His vessel spun out of control, careening into a larger asteroid. The impact wasn't catastrophic, but it disabled his main systems. Samantha used the distraction to limp away from the field, pushing her damaged ship toward the recalculated jump coordinates. The FTL drive warned of potential failure due to damage, but she had no choice. She had to try behind her more. Vexari ships approached, having tracked the commotion. She reached the jump point with seconds to spare, initiated the drive sequence, and held her breath as the stars stretched around her. The ship shuddered violently as the FTL drive engaged. Damage warnings flashed across every screen. The hull creaked under the strain but held. The familiar sensation of FTL travel enveloped her as the stellar horizon leapt into faster-than-light travel, leaving the Vexari system behind. Only when the ship stabilized in FTL did Samantha allow herself to relax. She had escaped against overwhelming odds, but her adventure was far from over. The ship was damaged, requiring repairs before she could reach Earth. And more importantly, she carried critical information. The princess had downloaded data to her ship's computer files that revealed a faction within Vexari society seeking peaceful contact with humans and other species. Information about Vexari technology, territory, and culture that could help prevent future conflicts. Knowledge that could change the relationship between their species forever. As the stars streaked past her, viewport Samantha thought of Princess Naravex. The royal had risked everything to help her escape to provide this information. What would happen to her now? Would she be discovered as Samantha's accomplice? Or would her deception hold long enough for her to continue her work from within? Samantha set a course for the nearest human outpost. The authorities needed to know what she had learned. And perhaps, just perhaps, this could be the beginning of a new understanding between humans and Vexari. What she didn't know was that her escape had set in motion events that would shake the foundations of the Vexari Empire, and that her path would cross with Princess Naravex again, under circumstances neither of them could imagine. Here's Part 3, title Part 3. 6 months had passed since Samantha Miller escaped from the Vexari space station. Her return to Earth had caused a sensation, the first human to be captured by the mysterious insectoid species and lived to tell about it. Military. Intelligence officers had debriefed her for weeks. Scientists had pored over the data she brought back, especially the files Princess Naravex had secretly downloaded to her ship's computer. Samantha had told them everything about her captivity, her friendship with the princess, and the assistance she'd received in escaping. What she hadn't told them was the personal connection between them, that the princess was the same alien she'd rescued years ago in the forests of Minnesota. That secret she kept to herself, unsure how it might be used by the authorities. Now she sat in a conference room at the United Earth Defense Headquarters in Geneva. The gleaming building represented humanity's unified response to extraterrestrial threats. Following first contact 50 years ago, Earth had slowly united its military and diplomatic efforts. The Vexari had always been one of the most dangerous and least understood species in the galaxy. Admiral Laura Chen, Director of Extraterrestrial Intelligence, studied Samantha across the polished table. "We've analyzed the data you brought back, Dr. Miller. It appears genuine." The princess took an enormous risk providing this information. Samantha nodded. The files contained details about Vexari military capabilities, their territorial boundaries, and most importantly, evidence of a growing peace faction within their society. It was unprecedented intelligence. Admiral Chen continued. "The question is, what do we do with it? Some of my colleagues want to use this information to plan preemptive strikes against key Vexari installations. Others believe it offers an opening for diplomatic contact. What do you think?" Samantha considered her words carefully. "I believe Princess Naravex is sincere. She and others in her faction want to end centuries of isolation and conflict. The Vexari aren't the monolithic threat we've assumed. They have diversity of thought just like we do. This is an opportunity for dialogue." General Marcus Hayes, the military representative, scoffed. "Or It's an elaborate trap to lower our defenses. The Vexari have never shown interest in diplomacy before. Why now? They're changing, Samantha said. Their younger generation questions the old ways. The princess is part of a scientific movement that values knowledge over conquest. The diplomatic representative, Dr. Olivia Ward, leaned forward. But even if the princess is sincere, her faction may be too small to influence Vexari policy. The queen and military still hold power. A voice spoke from the doorway. What if we could strengthen the princess's position? Everyone turned to see Director William Bennett of Special Operations. He entered carrying a secure tablet. We've intercepted Vexari communications, suggesting Princess Naravex is under suspicion, following your escape, Dr. Miller. She was questioned but managed to deflect blame. Her position remains precarious. However, Samantha felt a chill. What kind of suspicion? Director Bennett activated a holographic display showing intercepted Vexari text. Translated to English, Commander Kraz believes the princess aided your escape. He has no proof but continues to investigate. Meanwhile, the data you brought indicates the princess plans to address the Vexari High Council, arguing for diplomatic opening to Earth. The timing is critical as the ruling queen is elderly and succession discussions have begun. What are you suggesting? Samantha asked, though. She suspected the answer. Bennett looked at her directly. You have a connection with the Princess A. Unique understanding of Vexari psychology. We need someone to make contact with her faction, to establish secret communications and potentially assist them in strengthening their position. Admiral Chen nodded. What Director Bennett is proposing? Dr. Miller is that you return to Vexari space. The room fell silent as Samantha processed this. The thought of voluntarily returning to the empire that had imprisoned her was terrifying. But the thought of Princess Naravex facing suspicion alone was worse. She had saved Samantha at great personal risk. Now perhaps Samantha could return the favor. How would this even work? She asked finally. I can't exactly fly back to their space station and request a meeting. Bennett smiled. This is where things get interesting. The data you brought back included coordinates for a remote outpost on the edge of Vexari territory. According to our analysis, it's a scientific research station likely operated by the princess's faction. Our stealth ships could deliver you close enough to make contact. It would be extremely dangerous, Admiral Chen cautioned. If you were captured again, we couldn't mount a rescue. I understand, Samantha said. And if I agree, what would my mission be exactly? To establish direct communication with the princess, Bennett explained. To offer Earth support for her peace initiative discreetly, and to gather more intelligence on the internal politics of the Vexari Empire. Samantha took a deep breath. I need time to think about this. Of course, Admiral Chen said, but not too much time. The princess addresses the High Council in 3 weeks. That evening in her apartment, Samantha stood at the window looking out at the lights of Geneva. The city glowed with the confidence of Earth's united. Civilization humans had overcome their divisions to reach the stars. But they still faced challenges from species like the Vexari, who viewed them with suspicion or hostility. Her thoughts drifted to Princess Naravex, the graceful alien with her lavender exoskeleton and keen scientific mind. Had her deception been discovered? Was she in danger? Samantha felt responsible. The princess had risked everything to help her and provide information that could lead to peace. She made her decision before dawn. 2 days later, Samantha found herself aboard the UES Nightingale, a stealth vessel designed for covert operations. Its experimental cloaking technology made it nearly invisible to most detection systems. But even so, approaching Vexari territory was incredibly risky. Captain Ellen Rivera, a veteran of covert operations, briefed Samantha in the ship's conference room. We'll take you to the edge of the Kyrillian Nebula, she explained, pointing to a star map. That's 10 hours from the research outpost. By shuttle, close enough for approach, but far enough that the Nightingale won't be detected. The ship's intelligence officer, Lieutenant Darius Jackson, added, We've modified a standard research shuttle with Vexari identification codes extracted from the data you brought back. It should pass basic scans but won't survive serious scrutiny. You'll need to transmit the recognition signal the princess provided to be allowed access. Samantha studied the approach vector. The Carillion Nebula was a vast cloud of gas and dust perfect for concealing their approach. The Vexari outpost orbited a small moon in a remote star system. If Princess Naravek's information was accurate, it was staffed by scientists loyal to her faction. What if they don't respond to the signal, she asked. Or worse, what if Commander Kraz's forces are waiting? Captain Rivera's expression was grim. Then you activate the emergency beacon. We'll monitor from maximum range. If you signal, we'll attempt extraction. But I won't risk my ship against a Vexari battlecruiser, fair enough? Samantha said. The journey to the nebula took 3 days. The Nightingale moved cautiously, staying in the shadow of larger celestial bodies and using minimal power. Samantha spent the time studying the latest intelligence on Vexari politics and reviewing scientific data that might interest the princess's faction. She needed to appear valuable to them. When they reached the deployment point, Captain Rivera called her to the bridge. The massive, purple and blue clouds of the nebula filled the view screen, swirling with cosmic energy and newborn stars. This is as far as we go. Dr. Miller, the captain said. Our sensors show no Vexari patrols in the area, but that could change. The shuttle is prepared. Samantha nodded. Thank you, Captain. As she turned to leave, Rivera added, One more thing. We've included a special package in your shuttle, something the eggheads at R&D cooked up. If you find yourself in a situation where capture is imminent, there's a small silver case under the pilot seat. It contains what they're calling a phase shifter, experimental technology that creates a localized dimensional pocket. Activate it and you'll disappear from normal space for approximately 5 minutes. Enough time to hide. Or escape should work once, maybe twice before burning out. Samantha raised her eyebrows. Dimensional pocket technology like that was purely theoretical. Or at least she thought it was. Lieutenant Jackson smiled. Reverse engineered from artifacts found. On Proxima B, we've tested it 3 times. 2 successes, 1 failure, so no guarantees, better than nothing. Samantha said. Thanks for the edge. The shuttle bay was quiet as she boarded the small vessel designed to look like a private research craft. Its hull had been modified to appear weathered, giving the impression of a well-used civilian vessel, rather than a military craft. The interior was cramped, but functional with basic life support and navigation systems. Captain Rivera's voice came through the comm as Samantha strapped into the pilot seat. Good luck, Dr. Miller. The Nightingale will remain at the rendezvous coordinates for 72 hours. If you haven't returned or signaled by then, well, assume the mission is compromised. Understood. Samantha replied, initiating the launch sequence. Wish me luck. The shuttle slipped from the Nightingale's bay into the swirling gases of the nebula. Samantha engaged the engines, setting course for the Vexari outpost. She felt strangely calm despite the danger. Perhaps because she was choosing this mission rather than being captured. She was taking action, not merely reacting. For 6 hours, she navigated through the nebula, its gases occasionally flaring with radiation that disrupted her sensors. The shuttle's systems were taxed by the harsh conditions but held steady. Finally, she emerged from the cloud into clear space. Her sensors immediately detected the small moon that was her destination, orbiting a gas giant. In the distance, as she approached, a warning tone sounded. Radar scan. She realized someone was probing her ship. This was the moment of truth. She activated the Vexari identification codes and transmitted the recognition signal Princess Naravek had provided. For several tense minutes, nothing happened. The shuttle continued its approach while Samantha's hands hovered over the emergency controls. Then her communication system activated. A string of Vexari symbols appeared on her screen, followed by coordinates. Her translator processed the message. Research vessel identify purpose and occupants. Samantha transmitted her response, using the phrase the princess had specified. Stellar observer seeking nebula patterns. 1 occupant requesting scientific exchange. Another pause. Then approach approved. Dock at designated coordinates. She allowed herself a small smile of relief. The first hurdle cleared, but many more remained. The coordinates led her to the far side of the moon, where a small station orbited. Its architecture was unmistakably Vexari, but less militaristic than the main Imperial structures, more functional with bubble-like observation domes and extended sensor arrays. Clearly a scientific installation. As she neared the station, a tractor, beam engaged, guiding her shuttle to a docking port. The process was smooth automatic. She gathered her courage as the airlock cycled. Her hand brushed the pocket where she had placed the phase shifter, just in case the inner door opened, revealing 2 Vexari scientists. Their exoskeletons were the pale green of the researcher caste, not the blue of military personnel. They regarded her with what seemed like curiosity, their compound eyes reflecting her image. "Greetings, human," said one, its translator, rendering its clicks into English. "You have come a long way." Samantha stepped forward. "I seek audience with." She used the formal Vexari phrase for requesting scientific consultation. The scientists exchanged looks, their antennae twitching in what she recognized as surprise. "We were told to expect a human visitor," the second one said, "but not who it might be. The princess will be most interested." They led her through the station. The interior was designed for Vexari physiology, with higher ceilings and angular doorways, but Samantha could navigate it comfortably. Unlike the military vessel where she'd been imprisoned, this facility had a more relaxed atmosphere. Researchers moved about freely, discussing their work. Several nodded to her without apparent hostility. Her guides brought her to a communication chamber. The walls were lined with crystalline technology that she recognized as Vexari long-range communicators. One of the scientists activated a console. The system hummed to life, projecting a holographic field in the center of the room. "Please wait here. The princess will speak with you shortly." They left her alone in the chamber. Samantha tried to calm her racing heart. Had she made a terrible mistake coming here? What if this was an elaborate trap? The holographic field shimmered and coalesced into the form of Princess Naravex. Her lavender exoskeleton seemed to glow even through the projection. Her compound eyes widened when she saw Samantha. "Dr. Miller." The princess said, her translated voice containing surprise and what might have been pleasure. "This is unexpected and somewhat reckless." Samantha stepped closer to the projection. "I received your data. The information you've shared has created an opportunity, but also raised concerns. For your safety." The princess's antennae twitched. "I am under observation. Commander Kraz suspects my involvement in your escape, though he cannot prove it. My position is complicated. Is it safe to talk?" Samantha asked, gesturing to the communication system. The princess made a gesture of affirmation. "This channel is secure, encrypted with my personal algorithms. My faction controls this outpost. Commander Kraz has no authority here. At least, not yet." Samantha explained her mission. Earth's leadership was interested in supporting the princess's peace initiative, but needed more information about the internal politics and how they might help. The princess listened, her posture becoming more formal. "Your timing is fortuitous, Dr. Miller. In 3 weeks, I address the High Council to propose formal diplomatic contact with Earth and other human colonies. It is unprecedented. Such proposals are typically made by the military or trade ministries, not the scientific community. Will they listen?" "Some will," the princess replied. "My mother, the queen, grows weary of endless vigilance and military expenditure. The resources required to maintain our isolation are immense, and younger Vexari, particularly those in the scientific and artisan castes, question the need for conflict. When I present evidence that humans are not the threat we have believed for generations, it may sway enough counselors to approve initial diplomatic contact." "And Commander Kraz?" Samantha asked. The princess's mandibles clicked. In what Samantha had learned was frustration. He and the military caste benefit from the current system. War and the threat of war justify their power and privilege. They will oppose me with every resource, but they require evidence to move against. A royal, especially one with scientific and popular support. What can Earth do to help? The princess seemed to consider. This is delicate. Obvious interference from Earth would only strengthen Kraz's position. But there is something. You brought the data. I provided to your scientists. Yes, Samantha confirmed. They're still analyzing much of it. There was a research project I began before your capture. The princess explained. A study of the radiation patterns from the pulsar you were originally investigating. I believe these patterns contain evidence of an ancient communication method, possibly from the precursors. Samantha whispered. The legendary species believed to have seeded the galaxy with life millions of years ago, before mysteriously vanishing. Every spacefaring race had myths about them, but hard evidence was scarce. If we could demonstrate that the pulsar patterns are artificial communications, the princess continued, it would provide evidence that different species are meant to cooperate to share knowledge. Such a discovery from joint human and Vexari research would be powerful symbolism. Samantha nodded, understanding the strategy. Create a scientific reason for cooperation, one that would appeal to the Vexari value of knowledge acquisition. I can help with this, she said. But I'll need access to your research and additional data from the pulsar. The princess gestured to the scientists waiting outside. They will provide everything you need. You can work here at the outpost. It will take time, but if we succeed, it could change everything. As they discussed the details, Samantha realized she was committing to staying in Vexari territory for weeks, possibly risking discovery by Imperial forces. The Nightingale would have to leave without her. But the potential reward peace between their species was worth the risk. What she didn't know was that Commander Kraz had already dispatched a spy to the research outpost, or that events in the Vexari capital were moving faster than either she or the princess anticipated. The countdown to confrontation had begun, and the fate of two species hung in the balance. Here's part 4. The days at the research outpost fell into a rhythm for Samantha. She worked alongside the Vexari scientists analyzing the pulsar data and comparing it to the princess's original research. The station orbited the small moon in 18-hour cycles, creating an artificial day and night pattern that took some adjustment. The Vexari scientists were initially cautious around her, their interactions formal and limited to work, but as days passed, curiosity overcame suspicion. They began asking questions about Earth-human culture and particularly about scientific methods. Samantha found herself becoming an unofficial ambassador, answering queries, and in turn, learning about Vexari society beyond what she had gleaned during her captivity. Her primary collaborator was a researcher named Trizvan, whose pale green exoskeleton was marked with blue patterns indicating advanced scientific status. Trizvan specialized in astrophysics and had been one of Princess Naravek's students before joining the outpost team. We have isolated 47 distinct pattern sequences from the pulsar radiation, Trizvan explained on their 5th day, pointing to a holographic display. The patterns repeat in cycles of approximately 8,642 seconds. Samantha studied the data. Something about the number struck her as familiar, but she couldn't place it. The patterns themselves appeared random at first glance, but certain sequences showed subtle similarities. Could they be encrypted, she suggested. Most advanced communication systems use encryption. Trizvan's antennae twitched in what Samantha had learned, indicated thoughtful consideration. Possible, though the precursors would have used methods beyond our current understanding. Perhaps not encryption as we know it, but a fundamentally different approach to information transfer. They spent hours testing various analytical methods, looking for any sign of intelligent design in the radiation patterns. The work was challenging but exhilarating. Samantha had dreamed of making first contact with alien intelligence since childhood. The possibility that they might be decoding messages from an ancient advanced civilization was beyond anything she had imagined. Each evening she transmitted encrypted progress reports to Princess Naravek. The princess remained in the imperial capital preparing for her address to the High Council. The political situation was becoming more tense, with Commander Kraz openly questioning the princess's loyalty and scientific focus. His supporters claim science is a luxury the Empire cannot afford while threats surround us, the princess explained. During one communication, her holographic image flickered slightly as she paced. They argue that resources should be directed toward military expansion, not research. Has he discovered my presence here? Samantha asked. Not yet. the princess assured her. But security has been increased throughout the Empire. Communications are monitored. Travel between systems restricted. I fear he is preparing for something but cannot prove it. On the 10th day, Samantha made a breakthrough. She had been reviewing historical Earth mathematics, particularly prime number theory, when something clicked. The cycle length of the pulsar patterns, 8,642 seconds, could be expressed as the product of 3 prime numbers, each significant in different mathematical systems. She called Trisvan to her workstation. Look at this. If we consider the cycle as 3 nested patterns, each with a prime number length, we get a 3-dimensional matrix. The Vexari scientist clicked excitedly. I see it. The patterns aren't random. They're interleaved. A brilliant observation. They worked through the night reconfiguring their analysis. When they applied the new matrix, the chaotic radiation data suddenly revealed structure. Distinct repeated elements appeared too regular to be natural. Definitely artificial. Trisvan summoned the other scientists. The discovery energized the entire team. They began mapping the structural elements, searching for any recognizable symbols or mathematical constants that might serve as a Rosetta Stone for decoding the message. 2 days later, while reviewing the mapped elements, Samantha noticed something strange. A section of the pattern matched Vexari mathematical notation, specifically an ancient form used before imperial standardization. She showed it to Trisvan, whose reaction was one of shock. This cannot be possible, the scientist said. These pulsar emissions are millions of years old, predating our civilization by eons. How could they contain symbols known to Vexari, unless the precursors knew the mathematical paths various species would develop? Samantha suggested. Or more, likely they seeded those concepts in developing civilizations. Trisvan moved to another console, calling up Earth mathematical systems. When they compared them, they found similar correspondences. Human prime number theory, early Babylonian base, 60. Notation and elements of ancient Chinese mathematics all had parallels in the pulsar patterns. This is extraordinary, Trisvan said quietly. This suggests the precursors not only seeded biological life but mathematical concepts as well. Guiding the intellectual evolution of species, the implications were enormous. If proven, this discovery would demonstrate that different species were intended to develop compatible knowledge systems, designed from the beginning to eventually communicate and cooperate. Exactly the evidence Princess Naravex needed to support her argument for peaceful contact. They immediately transmitted their findings to the princess. Her response was immediate and enthusiastic. This is precisely what I needed. Bring all the research to the capital. I want you to present alongside me at the High Council. Samantha's stomach tightened. The capital, the center of the Vexari Empire, with Commander Kraz and his military forces. Their secured outpost was one thing, but traveling to the Imperial Center was exponentially more dangerous. Seeing her hesitation, the princess added, I understand your concern, but this discovery changes everything. The evidence that species are meant to cooperate coming from human and Vexari collaboration is too powerful to ignore. I can arrange secure transport and guarantee your safety under royal protection. Before Samantha could respond, an alarm sounded throughout the station. Red emergency lights pulsed as an automated announcement, echoed in both Vexari and translated English. Proximity alert. Unidentified vessel approaching, defense protocols activated. Trisvan moved quickly to a security console, checking the sensor data. Imperial cruiser class. Talon designation Commander Kraz. Personal vessel. How did they find us? Samantha felt ice in her veins. Kraz had somehow tracked them down, perhaps following the encrypted communications. She joined Trisvan at the console. The Imperial vessel was massive, dwarfing their small research station. Its weapon systems were powered up, ready to fire or deploy boarding parties. We are receiving a transmission, Trisvan said. The station's communication system activated, displaying Commander Kraz's face, his dark blue exoskeleton adorned with military insignia. His compound eyes seemed to burn with intensity. Research Outpost Kyrilia. This is Commander Kraz of the Imperial Fleet. Our sensors detect unauthorized communication signals from your station. You will power down all systems and Prepare for inspection by order of the Empire. Trisvan responded carefully. Commander, this is a registered scientific outpost operating under Royal Charter. Our research is authorized by Princess Naravex herself. The commander's mandibles clicked, in what Samantha recognized as contempt. The princess's authority is currently under review. Following evidence of collaboration with enemies of the Empire, you will comply immediately or face forcible boarding. The transmission cut. The Imperial vessel moved closer, its docking mechanisms extending. Trisvan turned to Samantha, eyes reflecting urgency. You must hide. The commander cannot find you here.